to the Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima Tavali. On today's show we will be reviewing a thrilling matchday 12 of Serie A. The big game of the weekend was of course the Rome derby, but it certainly wasn't the best game of the weekend, drab 0-0 draw. But there is lots of other things to talk about. The biggest news is the imminent sacking of Rudi Garcia. By the time this pod comes out, it may have become official, but he will definitely be sacked after Napoli lost humiliatingly 1-0 at home to Empoli. Stefano Pioli is also back under fire at Milan after they throw away a 2-goal lead at Lecce. At the top, Inter beat Frosinone 2-0 thanks to one of the greatest lobbed goals in all of football history, I would say, by Federico Dimarco. We'll talk about that. Did he mean it? Where does it rank among the greatest lobbed goals ever? And Juventus win again, beating Cagliari 2-1, which sets up a mouthwatering Derby d'Italia, which will be the first game after the international break. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week, including a weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday where we review all the questions from our Patreons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. You can sign up now to become a paid subscriber on Spotify. We'll provide the link in the description. It's the same price and the same terms. And for all of you that do listen on Spotify, Apple, iTunes podcast, we'd really appreciate it if you give us a 5-star rating, give us a follow, give us a like. Do the same on YouTube, also on our channel. It really helps us to grow and do more quality content for you guys, which includes more interviews as well. We've had two. We recorded 2 interviews last week. One with Roberto Di Matteo, the former Chelsea legend and Lazio midfielder, which we already pushed out last week. And we've done another one also we recorded with Sandy Lovric, the Udinese and Slovenia midfielder, who gave us a really, really great interview. We're pushing that out this week. So by liking and by listening and following us, that really helps us to do more of this kind of content for you. So let's get into today's show. Right, I was going to start off, Nima, with the Rome derby, but it was such a bad game that I pushed it a little bit down the order. So we have to start off with Napoli because Napoli lose 1-0 at home to Empoli, which of course is a humiliating result. But the big story around that is that Rudi Garcia is now going to be sacked. Like I said, by the time this pod comes out, he may have already been sacked. It's definitely going to happen. Nima, I mean, De Laurentiis has no choice now, does he?
No, he really doesn't. He has to get rid of him. It's clearly not working. That is a game. You can lose games like that if and that's acceptable if you're otherwise performing at a level that is acceptable. And I look at Napoli this season under Rudi Garcia, and it's not been acceptable at all, ever, once. His rotation, he gets his rotations wrong. He can't apply tactics that work with his team. It doesn't seem like he's got a good relationship with the big players in the squad. And yeah, I mean, it's just you just got to get rid of him. He should never have been appointed in the first place. And yeah, it frustrates me because again, regardless of who they bring on, and that's another thing which we're going to get to, this is again a mess. Like I said on Thursday, and like I said since the beginning in our preview show, when I was dreading and fearing this is a mess entirely of Aurelio De Laurentiis' making. From how he handled the Giuntoli situation, to how he handled the Spalletti situation, to how he handled the replacement to Spalletti situation. This is a mess, all of Aurelio De Laurentiis' making. He built Napoli from nothing, literally nothing, to becoming champions of Italy, and he did so without once breaking financial rules, Napoli being one of the clubs that have consistently turned a profit in Europe in the last 20 years, one of the few clubs, which is truly unbelievable. But when he reached the summit, he was completely unable to take the next step and try to build a winning cycle in terms of understanding what needs to be to stay at the top. It's, once you get to the top, you have to stay at the top. And he has completely botched this situation royally. And it's all on him. He cannot blame anyone else. That's the overall point I want to make. But then, of course, the Rudi Garcia thing, I mean, if I don't understand what the point is to keep him after this, because even if he stays, what possible credibility does he have?
No, it's listen, he's gone. He's gone. It's everyone I've spoken to, all the newspapers, everyone have confirmed he's going to get. It's the most inevitable sacking now than as Suella Braverman in the Home Secretary of the UK. It's even more inevitable than that.
She got sacked this morning, isn't it? I was going to say.
Oh, has she been sacked? Well, yeah. Okay, there you go. There you go. Yeah. The most inevitable sacking that you're ever going to get after what happened at the weekend, in both cases. So that was. Look, it's absolutely inevitable. Garcia is going, and I mean, just watch this game. I mean, like you said, it's not just the fact that they lost this game against a team who was second from bottom, against a team that have been so bad this season, Empoli. It's the manner of the defeat, the performance. It was a dreadful performance. They barely created a single chance until Kvaratskhelia had that big chance in the 88th minute, just before Empoli got the winner themselves. That's the only chance they had in the whole game. They didn't create anything. I mean, if anything, I think Empoli probably deserved to win. If you watch the first half, all the chances in the first half went to Empoli. They had a few good chances, not clear chances, but they had a few good. Cagliari had a couple of good chances. I mean, they probably deserve to be ahead at the break, Empoli. I mean, look at the XG. Napoli had a 0.76 XG at home to Empoli, second bottom of the table. And most of that would have been the Kvaratskhelia chance at the end. I mean, the team is a total mess. There's no cohesion. It's like the players have never played together. There's no spirit. They clearly... he didn't have the dressing room. I mean, every single time he subs a player, they're not happy with it. They voice their displeasure to going off. And it was the same yesterday when Simeone went off, when Politano went off, he pulled a funny face as if to kind of like, oh, why are you taking me off? You can tell that clearly the players just didn't respect Garcia at all. And then you look at the bizarre selections that he made for this Empoli game. I mean, he dropped, when you've already got Victor Osimhen out already, right? You just cannot rest Kvaratskhelia that doesn't matter who you're playing. If Osimhen's out, you do not rest Kvaratskhelia. But not only did he rest Kvaratskhelia, he rested Zielinski, he rested Natan when your defence is already a mess. And Natan's probably been the biggest, out of the centre-backs, probably the only one that's offered some kind of consistency there at centre-back. You rest Natan as well. He changes the system as well, goes to a 4-2-3-1. Which completely failed, and he abandoned it just after half time. He's making bizarre choices. It's clearly not working. So, ultimately, it is untenable after losing this game. But all you can say is that, on De Laurentiis' part, yes, he obviously made a huge mistake appointing Garcia. Everybody predicted this. Everybody. I don't think I saw one person that said, actually, this is a good choice. This could actually work. Like everybody, from the experts, the media, to the average man in the street, said this was going to be a disaster, and it has proved to be a disaster. But what I really criticise De Laurentiis, because we can all make mistakes. We can all make stupid mistakes now and again. Everybody does them, even one as big as this. But it was totally unacceptable that Garcia was not sacked on the last international break. On the last international break, he was close to being sacked. De Laurentiis had those talks with Antonio Conte. Okay, Conte didn't want the job. But at that point, it was still salvageable. The season was still salvageable for Napoli. Now, the Scudetto is unsalvageable. They're 10 points behind Inter. They're 8 points behind Juventus. Now, last month, if they could have sacked Garcia and brought in someone else, they had time. The points wasn't as big. They could have, they could have still been in the title race. Now I think it's all over for them. It's all over for them. So that is where I'm really, really critical of De Laurentiis. But yeah, I mean, just look at his record. Look at Napoli's home record this season. I mean, that was their 4th defeat at home this season. That's double the amount that Luciano Spalletti lost at home in the entirety of last season. They only lost 2 games. They've lost 4 already. And then, of course, they drew with Union Berlin with another dreadful performance in midweek. So it had to happen. The question now is, who replaces him, Nima?
Well, that's where we get to the other situation. I mean, Walter Mazzarri's being named, and that to me is just utterly insane. He cannot. Walter Mazzarri being named as a potential candidate.
Well, the Cannavaro brothers being named. I mean, or Fabio Cannavaro. I mean,
he's not being serious, De Laurentiis. He's not treating this seriously. I hope for their sake it's Igor Tudor, who I think is a good coach and I think deserves a shot.
I think he's the favourite right now. They've started talks with him. He is the favourite, but that doesn't mean he's going to get the job if De Laurentiis.
No, you never know with De Laurentiis. But the thing is, he's playing with this situation and he's not being serious about it. Because Walter Mazzarri in 2023, I mean, I guess in a sort of a poetic, literary sense, it would be kind of beautiful if Mazzarri came back, because then the De Laurentiis era would end with the way it started. Because let's remember, when he first came to, when he brought Napoli back to the Serie A, what really took Napoli from bottom mid-table to the top 4, and they've stayed there since, is Walter Mazzarri. And so that's what started all of this. And of course, it would end with Mazzarri, because Mazzarri's not relevant tactically anymore. In 2023, and he's not had an important job in a long time, and he's a cranky SOB, and I mean, what you need someone is to get everyone fired up and pulling together. Walter Mazzarri is like Antonio Conte, just less tactically good. I mean, he has the charm of he has all the negative traits of Antonio Conte and none of the upsides. I mean, I understand if Napoli fans are happy, but then you look at tactically as well. You're going to play 3-5-2 with this team, which is why you said you didn't want Antonio Conte. But the difference being that Antonio Conte is a winner, Walter Mazzarri is not. So no, it's insane. And then the Cannavaro brothers, that's not serious. You're not being serious. Fabio Cannavaro's not a coach. He's a man of leisure now. He just walks around the earth, having fun, giving talks, as all these former FIFA World Cup winners do, who, and all these legends who aren't very good at, much else other than playing football.
Well, he's coached in China and done well out there, but yeah, he's 50 years old. He's serious. 50 years old, and yeah, it's just yeah, you can't be serious.
It's not a serious option. The only one is Igor Tudor or Antonio Conte, and Antonio Conte seems to have not want to work with Aurelio De Laurentiis, which I think is a very wise decision by Antonio Conte. I don't think that would work at all. It would be brilliant if he came, because even if they do play a 3-4-3 or 3-5-2, Conte can make that work. But other than that, I think I think Igor Tudor would be a good choice. But I mean, he also likes to play with a back three. I mean, we'll see what happens. But no, I think Igor Tudor is what I would do. I think as a traghettatore, I would definitely get Tudor in, finish the season respectively, and if he does well, stay with him. And if he doesn't, then do a serious search. And start a serious project next year with a proper coach. And stop faffing about like he's been doing ever since having won the Scudetto.
For sure. Well, we'll have more to talk. We'll have more to chat on this on Thursday when it should be clearer who is going to be the replacement to Garcia. But just one word of praise to Empoli and to Kovalenko, because people have kind of ignored the fact that was actually a fantastic winner. That was a brilliant goal. I mean, what a goal from on the way out on the right. He hit that first time, top corner. I mean, that was a fantastic.
It reminded me, I saw that our good friend Patrick Kendrick tweeted it, that it was very similar to Boulaye Dia, Salernitana. If you remember when he scored the equalizer, when he ruined or postponed Napoli's
Scudetto party.
It was like, it's almost it's almost like it's from the same blade of grass, like it literally from that same point. It was a beautiful goal. No, it really was a beautiful goal. You can't blame the Golorious for that goal. No, it was a fantastic goal. And again, Aurelio Andreazzoli, you got to give credit to him. I mean, that win is so important for them in the relegation battle. And I'm starting to think that they might even avoid the drop now. I mean, if they're going to play like that.
It's a difficult one to call. It's a difficult one to call. But I'm sure we'll come to that. We'll come to the relegation race a little bit lower down when we talk about the rest of the games. But yeah, well done to Empoli. It was a deserved win, and it was a brilliant winner. Let's go to the Rome derby. Usually we would spend a lot of time talking about the Rome derby, but there really isn't much to talk about this game. It was a 0-0 draw. It was a terrible game. In terms of quality, there was barely any quality on show. A couple of really good moments from Luis Alberto in the first half, hitting the woodwork. Some nice moves from Spinazzola in the first half. But really not much, not many chances in this game. I mean, look at the XG, 0.57 Lazio, 0.39 to Roma. I thought Roma started well, and I was thinking, Roma are really gonna take this to Lazio, and then they kind of fell away. Lazio kind of came into it, probably the better team for the rest of the first half, and then the second half, it was just nothing happened in the second half, and I think. Once we got to around about the hour mark, I sent a message in a group chat that we were in. I said, "Look, this is ending 0-0. Neither side's going to want to lose this now," and that's basically what happened. And I think that this two things. First of all, I think this game probably sums up where Roma and Lazio are right now. Is two teams that are not really where they should be. Lazio especially. Lazio, a team that are not playing like a Sarri team. They're not. We're not seeing the kind of football that we usually expect from Sarri. The level of the team has definitely gone down compared to last season in Lazio. And as for Roma, it's a team that, we kind of associate with Mourinho in recent years, that they don't really have that style of play and those patterns of play. And they're relying more on the kind of individual class of a Dybala, of a Lukaku, which those two players couldn't really provide it in this game.
No, they couldn't. I thought it was a very cagey affair. It was obvious both coaches were more focused on not conceding and losing and relying on individual brilliance than creating anything. I think stability, safety was key here. And I think Lazio in the first half, especially, I had some notes written down, and I was really impressed by how stable they were defensively. I think they neutralized Dybala and Roma completely in the first half, or throughout the game, but especially in the first half. I thought they were really, really good. And they were able to find some spaces through the sheer individual genius of Luis Alberto. I think overall, it just felt like one of those games that was never going to get unlocked unless somebody made something stupid or a moment of pure inspiration. It was a very, very cagey affair. They did not want to lose either one. Their focus was to not concede and to capitalize on the mistakes of the other one, of the other team overall. So there wasn't really much more to say about this, but other than to say that the Rome derby, the fans and the spettacolo that they created before the game, the choreographies, the tifos, the singing, the atmosphere, it was beautiful. I mean, it's so nice to see the Rome derby packed to the rafters again, and just see these fans just sing their hearts out. And it was truly a fantastic atmosphere. So that to me was just both sets of fans really delivered. Beautiful tifos too. And beautiful choreographies too. So it was really good.
There wasn't much to talk about the actual foot stuff on the pitch, but off the pitch, obviously with the fans, like you said, and also the two managers before the game was great. But that was as good as it got. I mean, in terms of collective, it wasn't good. In terms of individual, I think it was a game where the defenders were on top. The defenders played well. Which is a positive for Lazio because they have really struggled with the defence this season. I thought Romagnoli was pretty good. I thought Ndika was really good for Roma. He seems to be developing a bit now. Llorente's been really good, actually, this season. He's been really good. And also have to give credit to Rui Patricio, because, he's been awful the last year and a half. But, that was a brilliant save on Romagnoli. I thought Roma wing-backs were good early on. Spinazzola, I thought, showed a good spark, which is nice to see. And I thought Guendouzi was pretty good for Lazio. Lots of energy.
It was a game where if you are a dynamic player whose movements break the lines, you will shine in a game like this that's so closed off. And I think both Spinazzola and Guendouzi are players who are dynamic players, and so they kind of stick out. When things are so locked. But I'm really surprised by two things. Number one, or I'm really surprised by one thing from Roma, and that is how little they tried to play the ball to Romelu Lukaku for him to hold it up. Because the few times they did that towards the end of the second half, they just couldn't get near him. And that's what you need to do. You have to play the ball to Lukaku, to his body, to his feet, with his back against the goal so he can hold up. He can really hurt you there. And Roma, for some reason, did not do that at all. Were unable to for 70, 80 minutes, which I thought was really
There was one moment
really
at the
strange.
end where he bullied a few players and he laid it off. I think it was to Bove, and Bove then just couldn't get his pass away to someone else, and that would have been the winner.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I'm surprised they didn't do that again. Like they didn't do that more often.
No, I agree. Look, I think that ultimately, and maybe this played its role in neither team really going for it in the second half, like, it's not a disaster at this point as we thought it maybe would have been when we were going into the game, because Milan drew, Napoli lost, Atalanta should have lost as well, but they drew. So actually, they're still both teams. This is crazy how this can possibly be the case, especially as Lazio, if they'd have lost this game, it would have been the worst start to a season since the 3-point era. Lazio are still only 4 points off the top four. Don't ask me how that is possible. And Roma are only 3 points off the top four. This isn't actually a bad result in the end in terms of, if we're looking at it, from a pragmatic point of view in terms of points. Both teams probably won't be that distraught at this result, but ultimately both teams have to improve. This playing like this, showing this level of quality, isn't going to be enough if either of them are going to have any hope of getting in the top four and having good seasons. They're going to have to improve a lot. But the only other point I wanted to make on this game, again, it's been maybe a week since we criticised the Serie A marketing, but who makes the decision to put this game on at the same time that Chelsea are playing Man City? Not only is that, that is just ridiculous marketing from Serie A, but then, Chelsea and Man City then draw 4-4. So, this game, from both 2 points of view, one, stupid marketing, and two, this wasn't a good advert for Italian football. When you want to see, a bit like the Milan versus Juventus game, people watching this game are not going to be wanting to watch Italian football. And when you then see that at the same time Chelsea are playing Man City and drawing 4-4, again, whoever chooses the market, whoever's deciding the marketing, have just got to be smarter. They just have to be smarter. Don't put it on at the same time when there's a massive game in the Premier League, which is the most watched league in the world. You've got to try and give this game the space it deserves. And that was the only other point I wanted to make on this game.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I don't have much more to add to that other than the last point is there was a situation where I thought Ciro Immobile was good, but there was a situation in the second half where I think it's Luis Alberto who plays him through, and Ciro Immobile 2 seasons ago would have run with that and scored it, but he just doesn't have it in his legs anymore. And I thought that was very indicative of the thing I've been saying, that it's time for Lazio to start thinking about life after Ciro. And this has to surely be the last season with him at Lazio as a starter. If he can accept being as a backup player, then fine. But as a starter, they have to move on, because he just doesn't have that. He just doesn't have it anymore, and that happens to all players. I remember towards the end watching Totti limp around. It wasn't nice. And the same could be said to a certain extent about Zlatan and his knee. At some point it happens to everyone. So but again, Luis Alberto is just—he's
been Lazio's one ray of light this season. He's actually been ridiculous. He's been incredible this season.
The level that this guy plays at, the intelligence, the sheer quality, the genius, the vision, the passing, the technical numbers, he is unbelievable. Like, what a player he is. He, like you said, the only ray of light Lazio have.
Yeah, absolutely. This season, definitely. Right, let's move on to Frosinone versus Inter. And there's only one place to start, is the Federico Dimarco wonder goal. I mean, I've been watching Italian football all my life, and there's been some amazing goals, amazing lobbed goals, and we'll come on to where that ranks in a bit. But let's get with I mean, first of all, let me describe the goal first for those of you who, I mean, I'm sure you've all seen it, but Dimarco picks up the ball just inside the Frosinone half, way out on the left, by the left touchline, and he lobs the goalkeeper Turati over him, and Turati's not even that far off his line. I mean, it's just an absolutely insane goal. But first of all, because there's been some debate, including from our good friend Patrick Kendrick, who people asking the question, first of all, did he mean it? Nima, what do you think?
I think it was very funny because after the game, he was asked about it, and he says, "Look, I first look up and see the Dumfries, or first I look up and see that the goalkeeper's out, and then I see Dumfries, and then I decide I'm going to go for it." Afterwards, Mkhitaryan says, "No, of course he didn't mean it. We all know that he meant to cross it for Dumfries." So there's a little bit of banter inside Inter as well about that, but. I think he meant it. I think Ronaldinho meant it too back when he did it. And the thing, and the reason why, I think there's a video that you can see with that, where you can see that he actually does look up at the goalkeeper and then looks down and then looks over to see where Dumfries is before he hits it. And to me, I think yes, he's going for it, but I don't think he intended for the ball to have the trajectory it did. Because this looks like this isn't a chip. This is a shot, if you know what I mean. Like it's not like he's chipping it. He shoots it, and I think he didn't. I think he meant to chip it more than what it became. But I do think, yes. Look, this is Federico Dimarco we're talking about. This isn't the first time he scores wonder goals and rockets with his left foot. Whether they be free kicks, whether they be crosses, whether they be whatever it is. This happens often with him, and therefore you have to understand and give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, I mean, let me come on to whether I think...
If this was a Cherby, or I would say, there's no chance in hell he meant that.
Well,
if it was
when
Darmian, I would say there's no way in hell he meant that. But if it's Dimarco and you've seen him do that time and time again, well...
Yeah. Well, let me... When I saw it first live, I was 100% sure he definitely meant it. Also because of the way that he kicked it. Like, you don't kick the ball like that with, and it was kind of went in a straight line.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's
so
what I mean.
you don't, there wasn't, it wasn't a curve. I thought I was certain he meant it at the time. Then, of course, I'm winding up Patrick Kendrick on WhatsApp about the goal. Too. So he sends me a video trying to prove that he didn't, well, not necessarily trying to prove he didn't mean it, but like at least raising the question, did he mean it? Now, in the video, the ball gets passed by Mkhitaryan to Dimarco. Now, in the video that I've got, I don't see Dimarco looking. I didn't see him looking at the goalkeeper because I can't see.
He looks up quickly. You can say, but when he gets the ball, he looks up quickly. Then he looks down because he sent me the same video, and then he goes up, and then he looks, and then he goes for like a second, and then he looks over to Dumfries, and then he shoots it. So it's.
Listen. The video doesn't prove that he didn't mean it. In terms of where he's looking, because there's a thing called peripheral vision, which all the great footballers have. and all footballers, well, all humans have, but the
I hope you've got that too.
No, but the great players are able to use their peripheral vision. Some people don't have the awareness to be able to use their peripheral vision. I mean, some players have peripheral vision. You would say eyes in the back of the head. That means you have the awareness of just feeling who is around you, when you're on the football pitch. And that's why the great players can do, like Totti would be able to do back heels. And you think, how did they see that player behind him? Well, they just felt it with their, they just felt it because they've got the peripheral vision and the ability to feel who is around and behind them. So that doesn't mean anything because he would have had that in his peripheral vision. He would have been able to see that the goalkeeper was off his line. The only thing that raises the question maybe that he didn't mean it is if you look at when he kicks the ball, he's slightly off balance when he kicks it, and his left leg kind of extends in a way that you wouldn't expect it to extend by how he was gearing up to kick the ball, if that makes sense. So that's the only thing that you would maybe raise a question, but ultimately, in order to score the goal, you have to kick it like that. So it's one of those which we'll never know 100%. Only Dimarco will know 100% whether he meant it. But I'm veering towards that he did mean it because I know that this is what he's capable of.
Yeah. No, I think he did mean it. I just don't think he meant the trajectory.
I don't think that Ronaldinho meant it though.
No,
I don't think Ronaldinho meant it. And I'll tell you why, because when Ronaldinho did it, there's loads of players in the box. So there's a reason to put the ball into that area. Whereas with Dimarco, he would have. That would have to be for Dimarco to not mean to score that goal. That would have to be one of the worst overhit balls ever. And Dimarco doesn't do overhit crosses that badly very often. Thuram is miles away from it, and he would also, in order to pass it to Thuram, he'd have had to curl it to Thuram. He wouldn't have done a flat shot, a flat kick, which is what he did. So this would have had to have been a massive miss kick because he's not curled this ball. He's hit it like with his instep, and he's hit it straight. To get the ball to Thuram, he would have had to curl that. He'd have had to whip that round to get it to Thuram. So that's what makes me think that he did mean it, because you have to kick it this way straight for it to go in. So yeah, I think it's an amazing,
unbelievable goal.
And let me just say one other thing, Nima. Who was it? Remind me. Who was it that compared Dimarco to David Beckham?
You did. No, you said you did say, and I remember I was saying I think that's a good comparison because they are similar styles of players. They weren't very quick. They couldn't beat their men for pace. They weren't fantastic dribblers, but they had an unbelievable touch. His right foot is one of the greatest right feet ever in football, and this guy's left foot is ridiculous. Yeah, he can do whatever he wants with.
He can put it wherever he wants.
Wherever he wants. I mean, the crosses, the shots, the free kicks, everything. I mean, they both have that, from the left and from the right, and I think that was a very astute comparison in terms of the style of player that they are.
Just in terms of,
but of course, you have to remember, of course, that David Beckham was, we can't compare their careers yet because Beckham had a far more illustrious career and did bigger things at a bigger stage than Dimarco has had. But yeah, I think in terms of the style of player, they are similar.
Just in terms of the foot, that's more than anything, because what I'm comparing it. Like he's got a left foot, like Beckham had a right foot. That's where the comparison is. I mean, it's like unbelievable what he can do with this left foot.
No, it really is.
But one thing I want to do though is like, where does this lob rank among the greatest lobs in not only Italian football history, but in football history? Because I really do believe that this is up there with the best of all time. And I had a little, and I spoke to a few people as well, and I put it on Twitter as well, asking for people, and I got sent in some really good suggestions from everyone. And those of you listening, I'd love to hear any other suggestions that you've got. But obviously, we'll start off with Beckham, because we're just talking about the Beckham will lob against Wimbledon in 1996, which was fantastic from the halfway line. From Italian football, though, the Recoba one against Empoli was amazing. Obviously, a lot of Inter players doing lobs. Yeah. Stankovic against Schalke which was a great volley.
A volley. That was unbelievable. And he meant that.
Oh, yeah.
There's no discussion there.
Yeah.
And he did that. Like, he scored quite a few screamers as well.
Yeah. So. And then you've got Miccoli against Palermo that I remember. Quagliarella definitely had one as well, probably around 15 years ago. I'm forgetting the team. Yeah. And then obviously Maradona. Maradona had a couple of...
Recoba against Empoli for me is the one that sticks out. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, Maradona had a couple of amazing ones. One against...
that's not... But this is the thing. That's a cucchiaio. That's a chip lob. Like, for me, you can't compare like Totti's against Inter at the
San Siro. I'm not counting Totti. That is a chip. I mean, I think it depends how far out it is. It depends how
Hagi in the 94, USA 94, that is more comparative to the Dimarco one. I think Poborski, in Euro 96, that's a chip. Do you know what I mean? Like the way that he lobs it over. So I think for me, the ones that I compare to is the Beckham one, the Hagi one, the Ronaldinho one.
The Ronaldinho one against England. Yeah, the Ronaldinho one against England in 2002 World Cup. Which I think was a fluke personally, but yeah, we can't prove it 100%.
Patrick Schick as well.
Yeah, Schick against Scotland was a fantastic one. The two that really stand out for me, there's only two that I would say are on the same level as Dimarco's, and that is Naeem for Zaragoza against Arsenal in the Cup Winners' Cup final in 1995. And this was the last minute of extra time with a score at 1-1 to win the Cup Winners' Cup, which was a big cup, which was a big European cup at the time, to beat Arsenal. So this was like, if you're talking about the most important and most, decisive lob ever, then it's Naeem. I mean, I think for the difficulty level, and I'll come on to Dimarco's difficulty level in a second, I think it's got to be Zlatan Ibrahimovic for Sweden.
Yeah, but that to me is something else. That stands on its own, because that's not a lob. Who does a bicycle kick 35 yards?
Well, it is. It's a bicycle kick lob. It's a bicycle kick lob, which is what makes it. I mean, for me, that's. I mean, I think that having sat back and thought about it, I think that's the great of all time, because the difficulty level is unbelievable. It's a bicycle kick lob from a ridiculous angle. I mean, it's just
35 meters out. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
It's insane. Yes. But what makes Dimarco so special is the difficulty level. I mean, it's much easier to score a lob from, number one, from a central position, and number two, from a static position, which a lot of these lobs are, from more central positions. Even the Beckham one was slightly to the right, but it was from a central position, and it's from a static position. It's much, much easier to connect, especially if you've got control of the ball. When you're on the run, it's so much more difficult, just from the balance point of view and the connection point of view. And you've seen how you're kind of half lost balance anyway. But also, his is way out on the touchline. I mean, it's a ridiculous angle. I mean, it's like, in rugby terms, it's like trying to do a conversion from the centre or trying to do a conversion from the touchline. Well, you try and do a conversion from the touchline, the difficulty level is infinitely harder, which is why not so many get them from the touchline. So, it's just the difficulty level here is other than Zlatan's, because of the acrobatic nature. I mean, this is from a difficulty level. This is the hardest ever.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, the greatest chip lob ever, Maradona against Verona and Lazio. Like that is truly unbelievable. Like, go back and watch that. From where he does it, how he does it, the situation. I mean, one-man wrecking crew, that guy.
Oh, yeah, that was amazing. But the other thing to consider is also how far the goalkeeper's off his line. The goalkeeper was quite far off his line, which makes it a lot easier. But for Dimarco's goal, I mean, the goalkeeper's barely off his line. He's only only 6 yard box. I mean, that's the other thing that makes it really, really difficult, and also makes it ridiculous to even try it when the goalkeeper is really not very far off his line. So there's that, and that's what all adds up to make me think that this is top three of all time, unless somebody can prove that he didn't mean it. And I wouldn't count. I mean, there's also Florenzi's against Barcelona, which I think was a fluke, which I don't think he meant either. So when if you can prove they don't mean it, then I would discount them altogether. But obviously, that's very difficult to do.
I think here, like I say, I think he meant it, but I don't think he meant the trajectory of the ball to go like that. I think he meant more. He wanted it more to be a lob. This was a shot more. Do you know what I mean? Like, to me, this wasn't a lob. This was more. I think he miskicked it in the sense that I think he wanted to lob it, but it became a shot instead. and it just went like a rocket. That's the thing. I mean, it was just truly unbelievable. I think it was more similar to Naeem in that situation, in the sense that he didn't lob it. He went for it. It was a rocket shot, and then it just went like a missile and had that trajectory. And yeah, no, it was truly unbelievable.
It was amazing. The only other one I want to mention is Pele against Czechoslovakia, but it didn't go in. This is the greatest lob that didn't go in the goal. And the two reasons. Number one, the footballs that they used back in the 1970 World Cup were like bags of cement. I mean, like they were so hard. Like even the idea, like of I mean, you used to get
your foot.
Yeah, you used to get so. I mean, literally used to break. I mean, that's why so many players that used to head the ball a lot back in the 60s and 70s, got brain injuries. I mean, died of, got Alzheimer's and these kind of Parkinson's, because they headed the ball so much. Now,
and
back then,
they were horrible.
Back then, only a few people in world football could score long shots because the balls were so hard. Like people couldn't kick the ball hard and high from long range because the balls were so hard. Pele did try to lob the goal from the goalkeeper from half-one, and he went inches wide. And all this was at a time when no one would even dream of thinking of doing it. And that's how far ahead Pele was of the rest of the world. So, I have to give a shout out for that. I mean, but it didn't go in, so it doesn't count. But it was It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Let's just quickly on Inter's overall performance. I enjoyed this game. I thought Frosinone had a go. I thought they did really well until obviously Dimarco unlocked a game which was quite even really until that stage. I thought Frosinone did really well. They played some good football. I thought Kvaratskhelia was fantastic in centre midfield, really, which is another good sign. Was people talking about Sule? It's a really good sign for Juventus because he was really good in possession. He kept the ball well, a bit of a metronome, good short game. I thought Frosinone were good, but eventually I think, after Dimarco's goal, Inter's extra quality told, and also, we know what Frosinone are like. We know what Di Francesco's like. There were the gaps to exploit for Inter, and they exploited them eventually, and probably should have scored more, really. But it's a good win for Inter.
No, it was a good win. Inter, look, in this, I thought Inter they weren't, especially in the first half before that goal. What I didn't like was how Inter were a little bit almost arrogant. They weren't concentrated. They weren't concrete in what they were doing. Their passing was a little bit. It didn't seem like they were switched on mentally the way that you need to be, because Frosinone were good. But in what I did like was, look, Hakan Çalhanoğlu is just what he's become at Inter. These diagonal balls from deep that just breaks open teams with one pass, with one long pass, and he keeps doing them time and time again. He's becoming he is world class now, in my opinion. I think he's the best midfielder in the Serie A, and I don't think it's even close. And I think he's actually playing at a world class level consistently now. I don't think it's even close right now. He's so good. The way that he reads the game, the way that he builds, even when he has a game where he's not 100% at his best, he's still world class, like against Frosinone. And okay, Frosinone aren't exactly the best team in the world, but they're no mugs either. So no, I was just completely blown away by the quality that Çalhanoğlu has, and of course Marcus Thuram. Inter have a dribbler for the first time, and attacking, and a number 9 that can dribble. I can't remember the last time that was. He goes past his man every time. Just can't stop him. And you can, but then you're going to give away a penalty. So no, he's the only aspect that he really needs to work on is the goal scoring part, because that's where he truly lacks. I mean, he's not poor, but he's mediocre there. He misses too many sitters. He doesn't score enough at all. And for a team like Inter, who creates and swarms teams in the penalty area, you have to improve your goal scoring output. It's just as simple. But no, I what I liked was Inter were, after that goal, everything, they got really fired up, and so they really started playing to the best of their abilities. And I thought they really took the game to Frosinone, who really took the game back to them. I was really impressed by Frosinone. But again, you have to, 8 clean sheets because, yes, Inter's defense is good, but they also have a fantastic goalkeeper in Jan Sommer, who I think has been, not just because of the clean sheets, but I think he's been the best goalkeeper in the Serie A this season. And we did it once again. He showed it once again.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to Juventus, who clean sheet record comes to an end. So Sommer goes back above Szczesny now, but they got the job done. They got another win, 5th win in a row. Not a vintage performance from Juventus. It was a very poor first half, terrible first half, but they were better in the second half, and they did deserve to win. I think some people are exaggerating. If you actually look at the XG in this game, they had a 2.65 XG to 0.65. So in terms of chances created, that shows that Juventus definitely deserved to win this game. There's a lot of things that need to improve for sure. The passing, especially in the opposition half. I saw a stat somewhere, 60-something%, low 60s. It was 63 or 64% pass accuracy in the Cagliari half in this game, and less possession than Cagliari. I mean, these are all things that definitely need to improve if Juventus are ultimately going to challenge Inter, who are their next game, of course. And this win definitely tease that game up nicely, doesn't it? Because there's only 2 points
between
the two teams. So that's going to be
13, the first game after the break, and that is Inter's hell week, because that's the beginning of Inter's hell week. They play Juve away, Benfica away, Napoli away, all in 7 days. So you got to get the rotation right. But no, that's going to be quite the game. I mean, I can't remember the last time Inter and Juve were. It's too soon to say that they're locked in for a title race, but it's an early top of the league showdown, early part of the season, top of the league Serie A showdown. And I can't remember the last time Inter and Juve were in that position. It's been a decade at least where they were both within 2 points at the top of the table after match day 10. So it's it's becoming like the Serie A. It's returning to the Serie A that we all grew up with Juve, Inter, and Milan at the top. But to get back to this game, I thought Juve just did what they needed to do without much fuss. It wasn't, it's not beautiful, but they just got the job done. Bremer has been outstanding these last couple of games, and I think he's come into his own now, and he's becoming the pillar of that defense. And I think he's starting to show what a fantastic player he is and how important he is, and can be, not just for the goal but also defensively. He is a monster. It's going to be really interesting to see how he goes up against Marcus Thuram. That battle is going to be very, very interesting to follow.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. It's going to be very, very... Yeah, Bremer has been fantastic. There was one incident in this game where Locatelli got outpaced by Shomurodov, and Bremer was about 10 yards behind both of them, and he just ate up the grass, as they say, and cleared it out. He was very, very impressive. This game also serves as a reminder of how dangerous Juventus are on set pieces. 2 more goals from set pieces. Bremer, like you said, brilliant header. He made that header look easy as well. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. That wasn't an easy header, and he made it look easy. And then Rugani with a hilarious goal, chested it onto the bar, come back off the bar and chested it in. Has there ever been a goal like that ever? Have you ever seen someone chest it onto the bar?
Not at this high level. Yeah, not at this level. No, I've seen it in lower leagues. Yes, I have seen it in lower leagues. I think Petter Hansson, the Swedish international, scored one of the most against Greece in the Euros after Zlatan scored a screamer. He scored the most scruffy, ugly goal where he heads it onto the bar or post, and then the ball trips on his knee and hits his face, and the whole thing is just ridiculous in the Euros. But it's about that's the level we're talking. Like, not a very good, not exactly a legend of the game. He scored
scoring with funny body parts. I once scored with my penis, if I can say. I did. In a game, ball got played across the box. I was running in the far post, and it just, just stretched out.
Of course you did.
But it was hilarious. It was hilarious. They did concede off a set piece though, as well.
Yeah.
They did concede off a set piece. That Dossena is a beast in the air.
I was going to say, he's an absolute handful, isn't he, in the air?
Yeah, because he nearly equalised as well.
With the header as well. It was off the post, yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's dangerous in the air. Like, he's big, but also the way that he kind of stays there, he's powerful as well, and he can get this like swinging headers, and he can get powerful headers. He's quite the risk. He
outjumped Bremer, which is, says it all, doesn't it? I mean, all the goals scored by centre backs off set pieces. I mean, it sounds like an Allegri dream, Ranieri dream.
Allegri versus Ranieri. Could it be more Allegri versus Ranieri than that? 3 centre backs scoring all the goals.
Yeah. If there's one thing that Juventus should be a little bit concerned about on this game, I think, going forward to the Inter game, but also just going forward, is their attack are not scoring enough at the moment. Chiesa and Vlahovic started the season really well, but if I'm not mistaken, they've not scored since match day 5.
Yeah.
And then Milik, I think, has 2 goals this season, obviously mainly a bench player. And Moise Kean, who I thought, again, was his all-round game, with the exception of one really bad touch when in the first half, and Chiesa put in what he would have been clean through and did a terrible touch. Apart from that, again, I thought his all-round game was really good. I mean, he set up chances for Cambiasso, for McKennie. I thought his hold-up and his bringing others to play was really, really good. But he hasn't scored this season. So you add that all together, and Juventus' attack they're not going to be able to keep... If their attack doesn't start scoring again, they're not going to be able to keep this up. They can't keep relying on defenders scoring off set pieces, or midfielders chipping in with, like a Locatelli scored 1 and Moretti scored 1 in 1 goal wins. That isn't, they're not going to be able to continue that. So that's the one thing that Juventus need to start improving on. But yeah, sets up a fascinating Derby d'Italia, 2 points behind them after the internationals. It's going to be great.
Just on that Chiesa point, I thought he was good in the play, but his finishing is not quite there. But I am seeing movement towards him becoming Chiesa again, which I think is good for both Italy and Juve. But Vlahovic, he's going to be sold, isn't he? I mean, if anyone wants to buy him. I mean, at this point, I'm thinking, should Juve even consider loaning him out at the end of the season if he continues like this?
Yeah, no, I mean it's not looking good, and we'll discuss this in a preview. We'll do a really good preview on the Inter Juve game next week. But definitely, there's a question to ask. I mean, Vlahovic, has he lost his first team place? I guess he has. So. I mean, does he start against Inter? Do you start him? Would you start him against Inter? I mean, I'm not sure I would. I mean, I think Keane offers more guarantees. He brings others into play much better. Okay, he's not scoring. But you think the goals will eventually come, I think, if he carries on playing like this. So yeah, it's definitely a debate. What is Juventus' first choice? What should be their first choice front two now at the moment? Is Keane now a first team player? I think he is at the moment. Okay, let's move on to Milan, where there's also lots of question marks in the attack because Giroud's going to be suspended, Rafael Leao is going to be injured, and that's made all the worse when you consider that they dropped more points. They throw away a 2-goal lead, 2-0 up, draw 2-2. Could have lost it. Disallowed goal by VAR right at the end as well for Lecce. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? That, we were talking about this 3 or 4 days earlier about Pioli being the Cheshire Cat, all these, onto his 80th life.
Here's the thing, though, with that. It's starting to show, I think, that Milan are, even though they have the depth that they didn't have last season, they do have that now. They brought in that depth to win these games, to win the Lecce away, the Cagliari away. And they're going 2-0 up, and they still have these collapses, because that's what that is. That's a collapse. Milan collapsed in the second half. And this has happened throughout the Pioli era, where they've had these collapses mid-games. But he's always managed to, afterwards, kind of turn the tide a little bit. And I think after everything he's done, he deserves us giving him the benefit of the doubt that he can turn it around. But I do find it problematic that Milan, under that Pioli's Milan have mental collapses in games where we're leading by 2 goals is by no means any safety, but they can lose 3-2 easily. Like when you go 2-0 up, a big team, you should be able to close that off. You shouldn't collapse completely. And far too often this happens with Pioli's Milan, and I think that's a cause for concern. And also some of the tactical decisions he's been making recently are just head scratching.
Well, what I thought was head scratching. Well, what I thought was wrong in this game. I'm not saying you should go full Allegri and be like 10 men in your box as soon as you go a goal up.
Sure,
but you can be a little bit conservative when you're in the lead. And at 2-0, well, let's say at 2-1 because the goal came off a corner. And again, bad defending off the corner, like a carbon copy of the goal they conceded against PSG. Flick on and then back post, head it in, unmarked. I mean, so they didn't learn their lessons, which is always not good on the manager. We don't learn your lessons from a bad goal you conceded. You conceded the very next game. But that aside, you're 2-1 up. Why? I mean, obviously Musa is to blame for the second goal. He loses the ball, of course. That's on him as well. But it's also on Pioli in the sense that why are there so many men in advance of the ball? Now, that's something that Allegri, you would never get. You would never get. Allegri would always be, don't only put X men ahead of the ball if we're in the lead and we're defending a lead. He just won't take that risk because then if you lose the ball, like Musa did, you're then in trouble. I mean, Banda is completely unmarked. There's also a debate over was Teo fouled? Because if he was fouled, I mean, it's Banda that is free at the back also because Teo Hernandez is out of the game on the ground. So I understand those that, I haven't seen the incident close up, but regardless of that, you're too many men forward, too many men ahead of the ball, and that's on Pioli. Pioli's got to have his team and say, you know what, we've just got to be a little bit more conservative here.
No, I agree with that, and also his tactical choices in Yunus Musa as a right back in this game is just and why? There was no need to that. I'm pretty sure they had Florenzi. I mean, he brought on Florenzi. Why not play him where he's supposed to be playing? And it was lots of weird stuff like that. And which I didn't understand why he was doing that. And again, this is what I meant when I said against PSG. Look, when you know that you have injury problems and you're playing your players like Leao, who are explosive players, Pulisic, who rely on who never stops running. That puts those are players whose playing style puts a lot of pressure on their muscles, right? So you need to be careful when coaching these guys. So for 82 minutes, no changes. When Milan were exhausted against PSG, Pulisic gets injured, Leao gets cramps, which suggests to me that he is he's overloading his body. And then, this for me was just completely going to happen that Leao was going to injure himself. I thought it was stupid. I mean, this is exactly why you brought Chukwueze and Okafor and all these players. This is why you decided to buy these players to rotate. And this is what I mean when I say Italian coaches. This is not just Pioli who does this. They all do it, and it drives me insane. Spalletti does it. Mancini does it. Conte does it. Simone Inzaghi started to not do it, but it took him 2 years to understand that he's got 22, 23 players, and he needs to rotate them when he's playing every 3 days. Right? That's how Inter got to the Champions League final, and because he got paid for that, and in terms of be rewarded for that, now he's doing that. Right? So this is an Italian thing. They're so stubborn and scared to rotate their players. And what happens is they end up overloading some players. Some players get injured, and then they lose it anyway. So it's unnecessary. And Pioli is no different there. It's just I just think it's so unnecessary. The whole thing was so unnecessary. You could have managed the PSG game better, not for the result, but in terms of the amount of workload you put on your key players, and then you should have rotated smarter against Lecce. You didn't need to start Leao against Lecce away. Honestly, I don't think so. And then you would have had, if you'd brought Pulisic off, then same thing there. And Calabria is now injured as well. No, look, there's a problem. You know, he's not. I don't think he's. My issue with him is not just the tactical things, but I don't think he is managing the squad properly right now in terms of getting everyone, you know, using the players in the right way to get the most out of them, and to avoid injuries. I don't think we can blame this just on Milan Lab. I think this is on Pioli overplaying and over loading his key players. And I think, which brings me nicely to the final point, I think Olivier Giroud got sent off because he's mentally exhausted, because that's not something you expect from a 37-year-old to do, getting 2 yellow cards in the space of a minute for dissent. But when you're mentally drained, when you're tired, you don't think clearly and you react you shoot from the hip. And I think that's what happened with Giroud. Now, I'm not excusing Giroud. For goodness sakes, he's a World Cup winner. He's, you know, look at his career. He should absolutely be able to handle situations like this. But the reason why I think he mentally finds himself in this position is because of the fact that they're not. I don't think Pioli's handling this very well from any angle, if I'm perfectly honest.
No, and look how far Milan are now behind I mean, that's unacceptable. To be 8 points off the top of the table by the middle of November is 6 points off Juventus as well.
Let's be honest. I don't think it's
not acceptable.
No, it's not. But it's not insurmountable.
It's not insurmountable, but it's not acceptable.
No, it's not good enough. There's no doubt about that. But it's not insurmountable. They're still in the title race. I think it would be silly to say that they're not in the title.
They're not far off from being out of the title race.
Well, I mean
you're 8 points off. I mean, that goes to 11. It's all over. Once you get into double numbers.
I don't think it's over. I think it's too soon. I mean, if you're 10 points off at the halfway point, then yeah, I'd say that's you know, it requires a Herculean task to recover from that. But up until 8 points, you're still in it, because every team is going to have dips. And Inter's usually come in February when they have their annual winter depression, and that's when all the big games are. So you have to wait for this until the end to see where it goes. But I still think they're there. But I don't think 8 points in the middle of November is acceptable by any stretch of the imagination. Absolutely, I think
no, and the form
especially when you've invested in the squad to win these games and you're 2-0. I mean, they threw away that. For me, Milan throws away that. They collapse. They completely fall through.
Yeah, and they're 2 points. They've got 2 points from their last 4 games in Serie A, and also, just like I said, remember Giroud's going to be suspended. How long will Giroud be suspended for now?
I mean, if it's dissent, it's at least 2 games, I'd say.
Yeah, depends.
Depends
what he said and what's in the report.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if the referee's so pissed off that he sent him off for insulting him, it depends on what he said. I expect at least 2 games.
And then Leao's got a muscular injury, so he's going to miss, a few games, you'd think.
Calabria as well.
Potentially. And Juventus, Milan have got Fiorentina next, then they've got Frosinone, then they've got Atalanta away. I mean, they're not hard games, but the way that Milan play, with those plays out. That's it. They've got 2 Champions League games in between there as well. I mean,
against very good opposition. Yeah. So no, it's unnecessary. It's really.
I'm just talking about the Scudetto race more. Yeah. They're missing, if they're going to be missing Giroud and Leao for the next few games, then they definitely will be out of the title race soon if they slip up in those as well. Yes. Okay. Right.
Before we leave, we got to talk about the disallowed VAR winner, because there's been a lot of talk about that as well, hasn't it? Yeah. Lecce were furious, and look, we have to keep 2 things in our heads here. The referee's job is to apply the laws of the game as they are. Okay, that is a correct call. There's no doubt about that. Piccoli stomps on Thiao's foot just before he takes the ball and shoots it. Right. So if you do that, and the VAR catches it, and the referee missed it, because if the referee had seen it and said, no, I think that's a fair challenge, then it's not a clear and obvious error, because that's his call, right? It's a mistake, but it's his call. But if he didn't see it, which I don't think he did, and then he goes and looks at it, he has to disallow the goal. He has no choice but to. Now, do I agree with that application of the law? I think it kind of ruins football a little bit. because of the fact of how the game looked and all of that. And 20, 30 years ago, there's no way in hell that goal gets disallowed. But this is where we are. So you can't say that it's not an outrage. It's not a scandal. It is the correct application of the law.
All the referees that have spoken after the game have all said it is the correct application of the law. So I mean, when they're all unanimous saying it, I do. But no, I've got nothing to add. I agree. I think it's some laws are stupid.
They are. That's as simple as that. And I think,
and my opinion. I feel like it's gone way too far in terms of any contact is a penalty, or is a foul.
But this was a stomp. You see, the issue here is that it was a stomp on his foot. If he hadn't stamped on his foot, if it was like people compare the Dimarco Lookman thing from Atalanta. Yeah, but Lookman challenged Dimarco for the ball, who was daddling. That's a call. There was no stomping on his foot. When you stamp on a player's foot like that, that has to be given. And if you miss it, you as a referee have made a mistake. And that's where a lot of people miss the application. It's not challenging for the ball would have been different. If he hadn't stomped on his foot, then there's no case. Then that's just a challenge for the ball. But then again, Chiao would have been much more closer to him, and he probably wouldn't have had the space to take that shot, which was fantastic. Don't get me wrong; it is a fantastic finish. I think it's a brilliant finish, and there are we have to ask questions of Mignon too. But yeah, to me that's a correct call. I don't like it, but it's the application of the law as it is, and there's not much to talk about.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, right. Italy, right, it's international break. We'll talk about that on Thursday. We'll preview Italy's Euro 2024 qualifiers against Macedonia and then against Ukraine. Absolutely crucial games in which the qualification for the Euros will be decided. Italy need 4 points, or they need either to beat Macedonia and draw with Ukraine, or basically just beat Ukraine. And if they don't get a win in their game against Macedonia, so it's absolutely right. But we'll talk about that in detail on.
I just hope Chiesa isn't injured for this international break.
I think he's actually fit. Actually,
good. No, enough of that. Like
Calabria, Meret, and Toloi have pulled out. So far. Right. The other weekend fixtures, we'll quickly go through them. So we've got to wrap this up. So Sassuolo 2, Salernitana 2, really good game. Genoa 1, Verona 0. Monza 1, Torino 1. Colpani, who has got his first Italy call up, he scored. And
he didn't. He had a cross with the outside of his boot of his foot, which was Quaresma gorgeous, which of course Gagliardini squandered. But it was.
But did he mean it?
Oh, he meant it. Colpani meant it. It was this. What have Inter got? What have Monza got here? Hello, Mr. Freud. Yes, I want Inter to sign him. But yeah, no. What have Italy got here? Colpani is Colpani, Colombo together. The way they link up is a joy to watch. Monza right now are really, for me, the must-watch team.
Yeah, they are. They're getting up there with Frosinone and Bologna. And Bologna, who lost 2-1 to Fiorentina, which was a really great game, really eventful game. And Bonaventura's got a fantastic goal.
Yeah, what a season he's having
in this game. Yeah, really beautiful turn and shot. Let's hope that these bloody players can do it for Italy, Colpani and Bonaventura. Let's pray that they can. And like Dimarco as well, we need them to do these great goals that these Italian players scored. It was a good weekend for Italians scoring goals. And then Udinese drawing 1-1 with Atalanta, gutting for Udinese, who deserved to win this game. And their 92nd minute equalising by Edison. Edison's having a good season this season. He's really, him and Koopmeiners are. They're making Atalanta's centre midfield one of the best centre midfielders.
They really are.
Centre midfielders. But it was a good performance for Udinese, who've really picked up under Cioffi, and they're beating Milan, and then another performance against another big team in which they should have won. So, you were talking there at the beginning, weren't you, about the relegation race? It's quite hard to call. It's actually quite difficult to call. We thought it'd be more straightforward than it has been. But
I'm surprised. I'm just worried about Salernitana because of 5 points. They are yet to win a game, and that's they're 5 points off safety. Empoli 10 points. So
it's concerning. I mean, it's hard to call. I mean, Salernitana, there's Verona, a second from bottom. Cagliari are back in the relegation zone again now after that little run under. So I think those three.
And Sassuolo as well, who are on 12 points now.
Sassuolo dropping. Empoli are just about out the relegation zone. Even Lecce could be dragged back into it. I mean,
Genoa too.
There's a lot of teams. Udinese, of course, with their attack. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, even 7 teams maybe. So it's Nima's going to have a lot of fun watching these.
Oh yes, if seven team relegation battle. Are you kidding me?
7 ugly sisters.
The 7 ugly sisters.
Snow White and the 7 ugly sisters.
I love it. No, I love that.
Who had the ugly sisters? No, it wasn't Snow White. Cinderella. I'm getting my.
You're getting your children's.
I'm getting my fairy tales mixed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Let's finish off with Baggio and Premface of the week. Right, Baggio, obviously there's only one person who can beat Federico Dimarco. I mean, this is a goal that will be go down in history. It will be replayed for years and decades to come. It will.
And I thought it was so beautiful, his post as well on social media, on Instagram, where he basically said, look, I mean, you have to remember, like, we did a profile on him a year ago. He's from Milan. He is an Interista through and through. And he put out a post saying basically this goal came from, all the places he's gone through to come to Inter and to be able to score and play at the San Siro. It was very, very beautiful for him to see, that he's done that journey and the way that from Switzerland to, from playing with the kids to playing, playing in Swiss league to coming back and then, scoring against Inter for Parma, a screamer. When Parma beat Inter, and then of course going to Verona and then coming to Inter and then becoming what he's become. So no, it's a beautiful story, and I think it's good for football to have these stories. I think it's good for Italian football to have these stories. My opinion. I think it's really important for all teams in Italy to have a bandiera or a character who is from the city that the club is from. That can connect with the fans. I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's one thing actually Juventus Inter. There's a lot of Italians for both the teams now. So that makes it a real derby d'Italia.
Yeah, it really is. For the first time in a long time, we have Italian stars in both of these teams, and they're important too. So no, he is the Baggio of the week. That's a crazy
goal. Yeah, Premface of the week. I have one.
I know what it is, and it's painful.
Yeah, it was really. It's one of those
painful.
Yeah, it's one of those interviews where it's really cringeworthy.
I cringe.
It's so like you cringe yourself watching it. It was Talk Sport as always, obviously.
Of course,
interviewing Evan Ferguson, the Ireland international striker at Brighton, who I think is a really, really big talent. I think he's got a really big career ahead of him. And he plays for Ireland, but for some reason, among Premfaces for like the last year or two, like there's this obsession. Oh, he's going to play for England. He's going to play for England. But I mean, he's played for Ireland. Like I don't know how many times he's played for Ireland now. And I mean, he's ineligible to play for England for starters. But the TalkSport report goes, well, and now we have the big question that everybody's asking is, is there still a chance? Can you still play for England over Ireland? And
he has played 8 games and scored 3 times for Ireland. Like, this is so embarrassing.
Yeah, I know.
He has played.
Did you see his answer? Did you see his response?
No, I didn't get so far. I died so much inside. I had to.
Well, they basically, the guy goes to him. He says, "No, I play for Ireland," and like the talks were like, well, may I ask why? Like,
oh my God!
And Evan Ferguson's just kind of like smiling, like, well, I'm Irish.
That would help.
Oh, Jesus. It was brilliant. Oh my God.
There is that.
Oh, no.
There is that. I'm Irish.
I'm Irish.
I mean,
you know, I'm Irish.
God.
Pretty simple
So
reason.
embarrassing.
It was so cringeworthy. It really was.
It really is one of the worst interviews I think I've seen in my life. It was just, I think it speaks so much to his character that he did not just stand up and walk.
Yeah.
Because it was so. He's born in Ireland. Like it's like he's Irish. Why are we even talking about?
Mm-hmm. And he's only eligible as well. I mean, that's
and his father is Irish footballer Barry Ferguson. I mean, he is Irish. Okay, his mother is English. Fair enough. And he grew up. I get supporting Man United, but people support.
Well, most Irish people do support Man United or Liverpool. I mean, have you ever met an Irish person who doesn't support Man United or Liverpool? Doesn't exist. Right. Okay. Let's leave it at that. We'll be back on so Tuesday for the Q&A.
Yeah.
Then we have
Wednesdays.
We have an interview with Sandy Lovic, which we'll probably push out on Wednesday, and then Thursday. We'll have we'll preview the Italy Euros and also talk about Garcia and stuff. So Garcia's replacement at Napoli and a few other little bits and pieces that I'm sure will come up. So lots to talk about. Lots for you this week. Have a good week, and we'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao.